Everybody, Ryan here with Ray's latest, and today I want to talk about Ron DeSantis and Rob Manfred meeting in Tampa on the site of the potential new Rays stadium this week, as well as the full spring training roster has been revealed, including the 25 non-roster invites, and as well as Edwin, you said it, finally went to arbitration court this past week, and I'll kind of dive into the details of that once we get there. First, I want to talk about Ron DeSantis and Manfred meeting at the site in Hillsborough's campus in Tampa at some point this week. He's he's long said that the state funding would not really be kind of used for the stadium itself. He did say Tallahassee, in his words, Tallahassee would be helpful within the confines of what's appropriate for taxpayers to be doing. That assistance will not involve at our level giving money for the construction of a stadium, but he did not rule out roads and exits. So things like changing roads and kind of dealing with kind of structural and infrastructure requirements to be able to just better the area and things of that nature. He's kind of said that we'll help out with what normal people are going to be using. Normal people are going to be using the roads, not just necessarily people that are going to games, kind of things of that nature. But he has suggested recently that the new addition of this being on a state campus has possibly kind of shifted the way he looks at things. And this is kind of big because if they decide to use state funding for the creation of the stadium because they believe that it's going to better the campus and better the area for a better college life, better education, things better interests for the students of the campus and kind of drive up enrollment rates and things of that nature in the area, that's big because that leads to the possibility of funding being used for a stadium being built. And I think that I don't think it's necessarily going to be an egregious amount, even if they were to kind of go down that route of, yeah, hey, like we're going to help out or we're going to help build the stadium with the state money. I think it's going to get interesting to the level of how much financial responsibility they delegate to that. And I think that if they do, I think it's going to be a minimal amount. I don't think it's going to be like half paid for by the state, half paid for by private equity and funding and things of that nature. I think that it's going to be a little less. Like, in my opinion, I think 10% would be justifiable to the state giving, you say, hey, we'll give you $200 million to build a stadium. That's all we're giving you. And we'll help with the roads and we'll help with the exits and we'll help with the infrastructure requirements and things of that nature. That's what I'm kind of hoping for. I'm not expecting DeSantis to say, yeah, the state's going to pay you 1.2 billion. We're going to pay for half of this project. You got to come up with the other half. I would love for that to happen. I just don't think that's going to happen. And I think that just any type of amount of state funding that just helps alleviate this process and helps it just keep going for further and further and get done, I think any amount helps. And he comes out to say, he says, you have Goliath, the Los Angeles Dodgers, you can just spend and spend. You've got a handful of other teams you can also spend. He says, if you're drawing 15,000 a game, it's going to be tough to be where you need to be. Then he goes on to say, you could draw 25,000 in this area with the right circumstances, right? You know it's got to be a good location, it's got to be a good venue, it's got to have some good stuff to draw. But if you're starting to do that well, then all of a sudden, the viability of everything really goes up. So him coming out and making that statement as well is really intriguing because he sees it. He played college baseball at Yale. He played in the Little League World Series. He's been around baseball his entire life. He's from Dunedin. He's from the Tampa area. He would love for baseball to stay in Tampa, and I think that he's going to possibly do whatever he thinks is necessary to keep it there and keep it in his hometown. So I think him coming out and saying that, specifically saying that we need to increase this whole area, we need to make this thing the best thing possible to be able to spend with all these big teams so we can win. I think it's great. And I love that he said that, and it kind of gives a little bit more optimism of, yeah, maybe we might get some state funding with that. But I'm also curious to kind of see how Rob Manfred kind of interacts with this whole situation. and kind of see what his thoughts of it are. Because he's longly said that he would love to keep baseball in the Tampa area. But then he was also a fan of the Montreal split and think I don't really understand where his standpoint is on Tampa a lot of the times, but he has vocally said multiple times that he would like for it to stay there. But I don't know if that's a true heartfelt message or if that's just him kind of just saying that from a political standpoint of wanting the Rays fans to like him. Anyways, I do think it's going to be interesting. I'll keep you guys updated on kind of how that goes this coming week and see how there's a possibility of maybe state funding. I think that'd be great. The next thing I want to talk about, spring training. So there's 40 man roster, of course, is all invited to spring training, big league camp. 25 more new additions, non-roster invites are going to be a part of this whole 40-man roster plus the 25, so 65 in total. And when you have the 4 or 5 players that we do have playing in the World Baseball Classic, that kind of mitigates a little bit of people that are able to come join early. With that being said, that's kind of the same for a lot of teams. So kind of having a little bit more of the non-roster invites in this time around kind of helps out just with logistical issues and helps with practice and things of that nature as well. Because in baseball, it's really, really hard to practice when you don't have enough people. And a lot of these being pitchers, you really need the position players to be able to practice, and you need enough arms to be able to scrimmage and participate in the spring training games because you're using a lot more pitchers, things of that nature. So having more people is not a problem. But for the pitchers that are on the non-roster invite list, Luis Guerrero, Brody Hopkins, Ty Johnson, Trevor Martin, TJ Nichols, Austin Vernon, Andrew Wantz, Cody Whitley, Logan Workman, Cam Booser, John Rooney, Chase Selesky, and Jake Woodford. Catching wise, you have Blake Sobel, Logan Driscoll, Tatum Levens, and Kenny Piper. Infielders, you have Logan Davidson, Ronel Delgado, Gregory Barrios, Xavier Isaac, Cooper Kinney, Trey Morgan, Braden Taylor, and then the lone outfielder addition to this is Edward Olivares. The big names that I'm really kind of excited to see, especially from an arms standpoint, is Brody Hopkins. He has
He's been fantastic in the minor leagues, and he's done great things to kind of help his case to be a potential invite to this whole 30-man or 40-man roster and kind of coming up this coming season, possibly make his big league debut in mid-July, August territory. But he's been great in the minor leagues. He had a 2.9 ERA in Double A last season. He's going to start the year in Triple A. I'm really excited to kind of see what he can do, as well as I'm really excited to see Trey Morgan kind of see him hit that stride. He played well in Triple A last season. He's young, athletic first baseman. He could play the outfield. And Xavier Isaac, I am really curious to kind of see how he bounces back from that surgery to remove the brain tumor from last July. I'm curious to see if there's any kind of regression in his physical abilities and things of that nature. And recovering from things like that is not easy. And obviously, that being what it was it's terrifying to to deal with something like that. But I'm excited to see those guys, and I am really looking forward to spring training to kind of see what we have and what we can get from a depth perspective. We kind of know what we got from the starting infielder, especially. Outfielders is a little bit more of a question mark on which guys are going to plug and play where. But I'm really excited to see kind of people step up over spring training and kind of see how they can go through the whole spring training process and see if anybody kind of separates themselves from the rest of the people. And lastly, I want to talk about USETA has his arbitration hearing this past week. He came out, he was asking for 1.525 million. The Rays came out on their offer of 1.2 million. That being such a big discretion and $325 million, they had to arbitration. The a decision by the panel of Janice Johnson, Alan Ponick, and Melinda Gordon will be held under other cases are decided or resolved. So there hasn't been a decision yet, but the arbitration court kind of runs through February 13th in Arizona. There's 14 players to remain be scheduled, so they're hearing multiple cases, and then they're kind of putting all this together and then making decisions on these cases. So we'll kind of see how that translates. I do think that at the end of the day, if the Rays have to give up that extra 300,000 and he wins his case, I'm perfectly okay with that. I'm not going to stress losing Uceta over $300,000. I'm going to be completely honest with you. And I think that being able to kind of resolve this as early as possible and get him out, get him back the pitcher, because pitchers and catchers report the 12th. So being able to get him back into Florida to get to spring training for pitchers and catchers report date, I think is huge, and kind of just getting this resolved as quickly as possible will be the best for both parties. So you guys let me know what you guys think about everything. Let me know what you guys think about DeSantis and what he's been saying, as well as any spring training guys that you guys are more excited to see and kind of looking forward to kind of seeing how they pan out. And you guys have a great one.